Let us discuss the Young's double slit experiment. Now, before I go into the discussion of this Young's double slit experiment, I just want to recap what we were discussing in the previous video. In the previous video, I discussed with you the concept of interference of light. Okay? And in that video, I explained to you that when two waves are meeting at a point so that the crest is touching the crest of the crest of one wave is touching the crest of the other wave. For example, I have a wave like this. Okay, let's say I have this wave, and this is like the x-axis. Another wave. Let me give the other wave with a blue color. If it goes like this, if the crest of one wave touches or coincide with the crest of the other wave, or the trough of one wave coincide with the trough of the other wave, this kind of interference is called constructive interference. And when constructive interference happens, what happens is the amplitude of the resultant wave will be large and we get a bright point. Okay. On the other hand, if suppose the one wave is, let me draw the x-axis first of all. Let's say one wave is like this, the other wave is like this. Okay, so you can see here that the crest of one wave is touching the trough of the other wave or coincide with the trough of the other wave. The trough of one wave coincide with the crest, the crest of one wave coincide with the trough of the other wave. Then this type of interference is called destructive interference. And whenever at points where destructive interference happens, you get dark points. Okay, why do you get dark points? Because the resultant amplitude, or the amplitude of the resultant wave will be small out here, and we know that intensity is directly proportional to the amplitude square. So if the amplitude of the resultant wave is small, then the intensity also will be small. Alright, if the amplitude is 0, the intensity will be 0. You get a dark point. Is it clear? So this is what I want you to remember or to keep in mind, that when the crest is touching the crest or the trough is touching the trough, what are we getting? Bright point. If the crest is touching the trough, then we are getting dark point. Okay, so please keep that in mind. All right, so let's say I have a space here. Let's say this is just a space out here, okay, the blank space, right? And I take a monochromatic source of light. Let's say I take a monochromatic source of light S out here. This is a point source. And we know that from a point source, spherical wavefronts are produced. I've not drawn the entire sphere. I've just drawn only a portion of the sphere, like that. Okay, so these are the spherical wavefronts. Now, what does the Huygens principle say? It says that every point on the wavefront acts as a source of secondary wavelets. Yes or no? So as these wavefronts, they go in the forward direction and strike this plane surface like that, then from these openings, can you see these small openings here, A and B? These small openings are called slits. What are they called? They are called slits. All right. So these small openings, from these small openings, there will be secondary waves coming out from A, and also secondary wavefronts coming out from B. Okay, just like this. Right, so you have the secondary wavefronts coming out from the slit A. This bold line is the crest of the wave. You have the dotted line which represents the trough of the wave. Then alternate crest and trough wavefronts are emitted from point A. Similarly, from the slit B, you will get alternate crest, trough wavefronts like this. Okay. Now, if you look at these two sets of wavefronts, there are points where they meet. For example, this point, this point, this point. There are many points where they meet. Yes or no? So I have not drawn many. So there can be more points where they meet. Now remember what I told you. At points where the crest. Now if you look at this point out here, this is the crest of the wave coming from A meeting with the crest of the wave coming from B. So what type of point are we getting here? We are getting a bright point because this is constructive interference. Yes. Similarly here, you will see that the trough of the wave coming from A coincide with the trough of the wave coming from B. What type of interference is happening out here? Constructive interference. So it will produce a bright point. Similarly here, crest and crest are meeting at this point. So this point along this line, you will get constructive interference, and therefore you will get a bright point on the screen. This is the screen, the red color screen. Okay, so this point which is at the center, which is in the middle of the screen, this will be due to constructive interference, and therefore it is a bright point. Got it? So I have given a white color just to indicate that it is a bright point. Now if you look at these two interferences here, this point and this point, you see the trough of the wave coming from A coincide with the crest of the wave coming from B. So what type of interference is happening here? Destructive interference. So you expect to get a dark point. Similarly here, the crest coinciding with the trough, dark point. Here, the trough coinciding with the crest, dark point. Here, the trough coinciding with the crest, dark point. So all along this line, you will get dark point on the screen, just like in this diagram. Okay, so all along this line here, you get dark points. All right. Okay. Now the point next to this one produces what type of produces bright or dark point? By now you must know this is producing a bright point, because constructive interference happens here. Here, bright point, constructive interference. Similarly here, bright point, here, bright point. So therefore you will get a bright point. Do you see here? So like this, due to the interference on the screen, you will get alternate bright and dark points. Okay, bright and dark points. These alternate bright and dark points, they are known as fringes. Okay, so this is a bright fringe. All right, this is a bright fringe. Let me write this with white. Bright fringe, and this is a dark fringe. These fringes can be seen. They can be seen on the screen. They occur, or they are produced on the screen. So like this, due to the superposition of the light waves coming from two coherent sources. You see, A and B are coherent sources. You will know what the meaning of coherent sources later on in the later lectures. Okay, so A and B here are coherent sources. So if the waves coming from the coherent sources superpose on the screen, they will produce alternate bright and dark fringes like that. Is this clear here? And the distance, this here is the width of the bright fringe, and this is denoted by beta, whereas this is the width of the dark fringe. This is denoted by beta dash. Is this clear here? So why are alternate bright and dark fringe are produced on the screen? It is due to the interference of the light waves coming from the two coherent sources. All right. Okay, now a few points to note here, a few points to remember. S, the monochromatic source, must lie exactly midway between A and B. That means between the slits A and B. So you can see here that I've drawn S to be equidistant from A and B. It is lying exactly midway. only then a bright fringe will be formed at the center of the screen. So this is the center of the screen, and a bright fringe is formed. Why? Because the source is exactly at the center between the two slits. Okay. S here must be a monochromatic source of light. That means it must be a light that produces one color, or it must have the wavelength of this must be just one wavelength. Okay, so it must produce light of one wavelength or one frequency. A and B must be close to each other, because if A and B are too far from each other, you would not be able to see the fringes nicely. All right, so these are the points that you have to keep in mind. Okay, so this is the Young's double slit experiment.